Let's work. Turn it down and listen to the experts. Gotta give a shout to the Talking Junk Network. Showing love, hosting battles, playing dope joints. The break room topics always staying on point. Never disappoint. We'll never need a makeover. We here for the takeover like Jehovah. Talking Junk break room takeover on the podcast. Dropping bomb facts on demand like Comcast. Now drop a comment whenever they're going live. Hit the YouTube channel right now and go subscribe. Peace.
Talking Junk Network,
where entertainment lives.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Tuesday night. I can never get used to hearing the legendary Sam I Am the MC on that intro. It is it's still a shock to me, so I hope you guys enjoy that. We were blessed enough to have him do that for us this year. Hopefully more surprises to come. But we have a great guest on for you again this week, like always. Say it every week. We always have great guests here to give you an earful of information that's going to help you, if not in your everyday life and maybe in your professional lives, or somebody that you know can benefit from this information. So remember, share, like, subscribe. Make sure everybody in the world knows about the Talking Junk Network. Talking Junk on Tuesdays, the break room on Fridays, maybe takeover coming back on Saturdays. But like I said, we have a great guest tonight, Mr. Hardy Smith. He's here to talk about his book, Stop the Nonprofit Board Blame Game: How to Break the Cycle of Frustrating Relationships and Benefit from Fully Engaged Boards. Yep. You guessed it. He's not just talking about board games like Hasbro. He's talking about the people on the board of directors in companies. So let's bring him on. Let's see what we can learn. How you doing, Hardy? How's everything tonight?
Jason, I'm great. Certainly glad to have this terrific opportunity to be a part of the Talking Junk podcast. Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the network and visit with your audience tonight. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming on, because we look forward to having these discussions with great guests like you, just to know a little bit about your lives. It gives us a little bit of hope, a little bit of insight that maybe we can reach the same plateaus as our guest. So what were you always a nonprofit consultant, or did you just kind of stumble into the field?
Well, the answer is somewhere in between there, somewhere. My professional background, Jason, is 30 years in the high performance world of NASCAR racing. So Daytona 500, just track is still warm from the latest edition of the Daytona 500. What a great show it was. I spent a whole lot of time putting on events just like that in Daytona, Talladega, and all over the country. During that time, I spent a whole lot of time working with community groups, nonprofit organizations, as a part of my corporate and professional responsibilities, but also my personal interest as well. So I've got a long time personal and professional involvement with nonprofits all over the country. And then after 30 years in that high performance world of NASCAR racing, I launched off on my own consulting path, professional speaking, where I tell stories based on all those days in the racing world. And I applied.
I bet you got a couple of good ones.
Oh, there are a few, and some I can tell, and some I'm not supposed to tell. But those are maybe the best ones. But
well, we want to hear the ones you can't tell.
There's always some cool ones. And then what I did is I applied the NASCAR type thinking, where there's always a challenge and you never accept You don't accept winning because you want to replicate it again the next week. And you certainly don't accept losing, which is second place all the way back. And you want to find out why you did so you don't replicate that again. And so a little bit of contrarianism, a little bit of being pragmatic, challenging. And that's the mindset that I bring to my work with nonprofits, which makes me just a little bit different.
Not different, unique. Unique.
There's some uniqueness there too. Yeah.
Right, because you seem like you would be one of the best people to work with. Now it seems like a natural fit that you would go from planning these events straight into nonprofit work, because they're both kind of similar in a way, because you're dealing with the community, and you're dealing with the needs of the community at that. You want your entertainment side of it to be as entertaining as possible, where on the nonprofit side, they need to have certain things fall in place for them to be able to help the community that surrounds the nonprofit. So when you first figured that this was a right fit for you, how did you kind of ease into it, or did you just dive head first?
Well, it was really a natural transition. Like I say, I've been involved in community activities, nonprofit organizations, associations, chambers of commerce, for a long, long period of time. So a natural transition to me to be able to take all the talents and skills and the education and experience that was developed in that world of NASCAR racing and apply that to something that I really enjoy doing. And it's been a natural fit for me.
So when you started, what was kind of the most challenging thing for you to do when you broke into nonprofits? Because I know there's always some type of culture shock within it.
Well, the culture shock is really I would say in hindsight would say not really so much. I knew what I was getting into. It was just a matter of getting out there and creating a good business plan from a consultant start a business startup, having the benefit of a good business plan, which I did. And I mean, I didn't just jump off a cliff. I didn't just say, okay, one day I'm at NASCAR and the next day I'm going to do something different. So this was something that had been in my mind and in my planning, career planning for a while. And it was a good, smooth transition. I've been very fortunate with a number of great clients so far, and the client list is continuing to grow. And thanks to opportunities like being on the Talking Junk Network, the word is continuing to expand and spread. And I'm out there, and I wouldn't say I'm a household name, but I might be known in the neighborhood.
Well, that's good, because the neighborhood's Daytona Beach, and that's a very well-known place to be. What were some of the first nonprofits that you helped out? Oh, Matt, let me start with this question rather. When you started out helping these nonprofits, were you just working for yourself, or did you work for a company initially?
No, I created my own company, own consulting company, and went from there and started. I guess some of the, I guess everything's relative and kind of the scale, so to speak. But I also actually, when I left NASCAR, I actually was very fortunate and was able to have the NASCAR company as my first client. So I was able to leave that world, but I was able to take them with me. So that was a big plus. And then I immediately.
Could you kind of attribute that to the smooth transition?
Well, that certainly helped. Yes. and being able to, and that was really a kind of a recognition for a long time contribution in maybe a small way to the success that the company had realized over that period of time. So I certainly appreciated that and helped me get started on a good solid footing. But being able to pick up clients really came natural for me. And it's just out there and getting the word out, and you're available and you can help. You show people how you can help, the difference that you can make, different approach. And now the fact that I've got a book out that helps has really accelerated my visibility level. It's the level of business has picked up dramatically, even though I've been in it for a while and been successful. Having a book out on the topic that I work in has certainly accelerated that.
Now, when anybody thinks nonprofit, they think government funded. Now, most of the time, that's not true, which is kind of what your book is a little bit about. Most nonprofits have a board of directors. Now,
Yes.
like most companies, you have to get through these board of directors to get anywhere. What are some of the frustrations you see between nonprofits and the board?
Well, that's a great question, and the nonprofit sector, and they're about a little over 1.5 million nonprofit organizations in this country. So that's the not for profits, the social sector, human services groups, associations, community groups, chambers of commerce, their local organizations, statewide organizations, regional and national, and also international organizations that are based in the United States. They have an international reach, and I've worked at in all of those levels in the work that I do. The interesting thing is that maybe from the very beginning of the existence of nonprofits and nonprofit boards, is that there's a continuing dialogue, Jason, that's out there where nonprofit leaders are expressing frustration about their board members not doing what they're supposed to do, being frustrated because board members aren't meeting expectation, and that has really intrigued me. It may be that NASCAR background that I've got, and I just haven't been able to stand it. I said I've got to find out why this is, because there's a whole lot of advice that's been out there. Here's what you do, here's how you fix it. But what I've seen is it hasn't made a difference. And organizations that I've seen as I got deeper and deeper into studying this question as a personal research quest to find the answer to why don't board members do what they're supposed to do. What I found out is that practices that many organizations consider best practices are exactly the opposite of that. They're not, they're continuing to do the same things, follow the same path, and are hoping for a different result. And we've heard people talk about that, and all the time, and how foolish that is. But that's the world of nonprofits. So I set out to find an answer for that, and that's what I did. And the big reveal of all of that is what the book is all about.
So, excuse me. Are most of the underlining issues between board members and the nonprofit kind of similar with each company, or are they different?
They're very similar. So, a virtual high five to you, because you've really asked a very important question. there is similarity, and that similarity validates the research findings that I was able to come to a conclusion on, and the big reveal that I talk about and Stop the Nonprofit Board Blame Game, Jason, is that while nonprofit organizational leaders are pointing the finger of blame at their board members because board members aren't living up to expectations, guess what? I found out there are a whole lot of board members that are not happy with their board member experience. So at one time, they may have been great board members, but they get turned off because of the repeated mistakes their nonprofit leaders are making. So now what happens? You've got the organizational professionals pointing a finger of blame at board members. Board members are pointing the finger of blame at the nonprofit professionals. And guess where that leads us?
Nowhere.
It's to the nonprofit board blame game. And there are no winners, right? There are no winners in this game.
Right. There are no winners. None whatsoever. But you know how you can be a winner? By listening to us. Because what's not the same about every other podcast is our commercials. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsors.
Me and my team, whenever we link up, they gonna be drink up. We still gonna relax and have few glasses when there's things to think about. Like I'm nice with the boss when I tend to the bars and I'm not talking drink ups. So tell the bartender that tended the bar to please pass me a big cup up. And tell that waitress is waiting on us to put a little ice in it. Now watch the ice become weightless like the spaceships that I be sitting in. No wait and listen, no, they're waiting for that tropical twist that'll tickle your taste buds. Now tell you something, I insist it's the Drizzle.
We are back with Mr. Hardy Smith. If you're just joining us, we are talking about nonprofits and the games the board members play. Now, Hardy, what are most of the disagreements between nonprofits and the board about money? Are they always about finances?
Another very good question. There's a mistake that's made quite often, Jason, in the relationship between the staff professionals and the volunteer board members. And the mistake that's made, in my opinion, is that the assumption that board members are obligated, that there's a mandate, that they are fundraisers. And when I talk about fundraisers, I'm talking about in the context of direct solicitation, me asking you, my friend Jason, to write a check to a cause that I support. And the only reason you're doing that is because we're butts. Right. There are a lot of ways that board members can be involved in fundraising. I'm talking about the problem is in the direct solicitation. Now here's the setup. Here's what happens. Not very many people ever, like anyone else, like asking anyone else for money. That's just right. One of the things human beings do. There are not many people who like doing that. So when we have the conversation and we're talking to prospective new members of the board, we shy away. We don't have the conversation around, hey, we're asking all of our board members to raise money or give money at a substantial level personally. We don't have that conversation in too many situations. And then we hold that. The reason that we don't have the conversation in the recruiting phase is because we're afraid our board prospect will say no. And now we don't have anyone to fill that empty board seat. We have to start all over in our recruiting process. So we figure that it's easier just to get the prospect to the altar, get them to say yes, make the commitment, and then after the fact, say, hey, guess what? We want all our board members to raise money. Well, that's kind of like bait and switch. So in the marketing world, if you have an advertisement that your refrigerator only costs a new brand new refrigerator only costs $50, and then you say, wow, that's great. I'm going down to the store. I'm going to get me one of those. And wow, you know what? They don't have any $50 refrigerators. That was a misprint, they say in the ad. Sorry, they got to sell the $50 refrigerator.
They're really $500.
Yeah, and that's bait and switch. And in the world of marketing, that's illegal. Well,
Okay.
It happens all the time in board recruiting. So it's misleading. And so if you have the conversation up front and we say, hey, Jason, we want you to be on our board and we think you'd be a great board member. And as a part of that, we want you to commit that you will be involved in our fundraising activity and that you're willing to personally solicit funds and perhaps make substantial personal donations. If we have the conversation up front and you agree to it, the expectation, then that's all great. There's not going to be a problem. But the problem occurs when it happens later, after you're
That's
already on
tricky
the board.
hidden fees.
It's a little
the fine print.
Yeah, that's a little sticky there, and that's where the disagreement comes in.
Now, what exactly are a board of directors supposed to be doing?
Great question. There are 50 states, so every one of the 50 states in this country have different state rules that govern and regulate nonprofit organizations. And then at the federal level, you also have federal laws, and you have the Internal Revenue Service and the tax codes. So all of those have a say-so in what boards are supposed to be doing. Boards are essentially, think of it this way, boards are the oversight. They are the protector of and the representative of the members of the organization or those who support the cause of the nonprofit. And those could be people, could be animals, could be the environment, whoever it is that's the constituency that the nonprofit is supposed to be looking out for and doing some good to help. It's the board's responsibility to make sure everything is on the up and up. The financials are good. All the governmental reporting is being taken care of. Everything's being done properly. And the service that the nonprofit says it provides is being provided. So it's an oversight organization. It's governance. The term is governance and fiduciary responsibilities. And it's a legal obligation.
So you're signing a binding contract stating that the whole fate of the nonprofit is basically on the board's hands.
Well, it's some organizations will ask board members to sign what I would call a commitment letter of commitment. But whether there's a signed letter of commitment or not, There are laws in every state, laws at the federal level, the Internal Revenue Service, all are saying, whether you know it or not, they are saying you have just assumed a legal responsibility for this organization that you are now a member of the board for.
Right.
That's pretty
So
heavyweight stuff, but and not enough nonprofit boards understand that role.
Right. I mean, how could they? It's a lot to take in. And like you said, not a lot of nonprofits tell them that straight up. It's usually after they're already sitting at this desk thinking they've made it big. They're one of the head honchos now of this big organization. And you have obligations that you have to meet. You didn't know about it initially, but now is the time where you have to wonder, is this exactly what you want? Or do you just leave?
Absolutely. And
How
one of
many
the
board
things
members
that,
have? Oh, I'm sorry. A little bit
and
of
I
a
was
delay.
going to say, one of the things that gets good people in trouble, there's a whole lot of individuals out there that have good intentions. And, board members and the nonprofit professional staff, they all are trying to do good, but trying to do good doesn't mean you have to not. You're supposed to be following the rules and the regulations and doing what you're supposed to be doing. But all too often, that's what gets a lot of good people in trouble. They just figure, hey, we're just trying to do good here, so they don't have to have strategic planning, or they don't have to have good financial planning or good budgets. And that's one of the things that good boards do, is ask those questions to make sure the nonprofit is on track.
Right. VPXM on YouTube, how you doing? Says, if that's the case, politicians should be all new species. They ask for money all the time.
That's unfortunately that's a true statement, and unfortunately that's a part of the system. So
Right. Well, the government is pretty much the board of directors of the United States.
well, yes, and people who get elected to those seats want to keep those seats, and the way our system works, rightly or wrongly, it costs a whole lot of money to get elected and then stay elected, and that's just good or bad. That's a part of it.
Right. Which is also the case with a nonprofit. If a nonprofit isn't getting any money in, it doesn't have the resources it needs to contribute to the community. What are some of the battles besides finances that you've seen go on between the board of directors and nonprofit organizations?
I think the frustration that I see that board members have is the same issue that's the number one issue that creates the relationship breakups, is a lack of good communication. So anytime I'm doing a presentation or a training session on effective relationships, effective communications, and I'll ask, well, what's the number one most important element to a long-term successful relationship? And it could be personal, it could be business. It's always the same answer, and it's good communications. And it's not necessarily more like another report or something like that. It's how effective are you communicating? Do you know who, the individual, or who collectively as an audience that you're communicating with? And what do they want to hear? What do they need to hear? And in the world of nonprofits, there are too many board members, Jason, who complain they feel like they're treated like mushrooms. They're kept in the dark and covered up with
fed shit till they're grown.
That's exactly it.
I got you. I mean, how could they not feel that way? You know what I mean? But I would assume that the other side feels the same way.
It can work both ways, and that's why the title of the book, Stop the Nonprofit Board Blame Game, on the cover, they're two fingers of blame pointing at each other. So that's exactly the reason why. There are two sides to it all. And thanks for pulling up that Amazon link. Best-selling book on Amazon. So thank you.
My pleasure. Go and get that. Kindle edition's $9.99. Paperback is $17.79. Make sure you go and get both editions. You want to have it digital, and just in case something happens, you want to keep the physical copy right there. Now, I know you don't give away, all your secrets in this book, because obviously you have a company to run, and you need people to want to partake in the services that you have. Now, where can we find that if we need to get Mr. Hardy Smith Consulting?
I'm really easy to find. HardySmith.com. You've got me right there. Thank you. HardySmith.com.
That is a great website. I need your website, guy.
Thank you.
There it is. Consulting, speaking, and facilitating, and resources. Unlock your organization's full potential now. Go to hardysmith.com. Now, Hardy, we know you're a very busy man. You're helping nonprofits all over the world. Before we get you out of here, what is the one thing that you want to say to 1779? So close. Hardy sounds like a good guy. Kudos for having him on, Jay. Well, thank you. We try to have on good people all the time.
Thank you.
Now, he made me lose my train of thought. What is the message that you want to convey to the audience right now? Maybe some nonprofits may be listening, maybe some board members, maybe some future partakers in either of the fields. But what is one thing that you can say to help them in their journey?
I would say consider this. Jason, we have been battling for, what is it, 2.5, almost 3 years now, with the effects of a global pandemic. And during the pandemic, in the early stages, it'll be over with in a couple of weeks. And of course, we're still trying to figure it out. But once we got into it, we all started talking about disruption, change. The world is upside down. What are we going to do? And we weren't ready for this. And then it was, wait a minute, time out. Yes, it's true. We're in the middle of a devastating pandemic that caused so much loss and heartbreak. But isn't it true that nonprofits and the rest of the world are in constant change? We're in constant disruption. There is always something. So this happened to be a pandemic. There have been financial upheavals in the marketplace. And we know in our economic system in the United States, it goes up and it goes down. That's the part of our economy. That's just the way it is. There are military conflicts, there are environmental conflicts, there are natural disasters. There is always something. So for all my friends out there in the nonprofit sector, considering that, please consider this. Utilize your board, and that means developing your board, getting the right people on your board. Recruit board members with purpose and process, and Stop the Nonprofit Board Blame Game outlines exactly how to do that. But take these action steps to create what I call a board that is considered as a high value asset, and use your board as a high value asset. And if they are being treated like that, and you're working with your board in that type of a situation, what you're going to find out is those board members with all of their experience, all of their skills, and their passion for your cause, they're going to help future proof your organization. They're going to help future proof your organization for whatever the next disruption might be. And we know there's going to be something. There'll be something. But aren't we foolish if we think, oh, whew, got through that one, and now, how many times did you hear, Jason, well, new normal, or we're back to normal, or back to where? Well, that, we've been saying that since the beginning of time. It ain't ever going back to whatever that was.
There's no such thing as normal.
Happy Days was a TV show, folks. So it keeps moving. So create a board as a high value asset and future proof your organization.
That is a great message. Thank you very much, Hardy. I appreciate you coming on, and I am sure with you right down the road, this is not the last time we're going to meet. Thank you very much for coming on.
Jason, thank you so very much. Impressive podcast, and appreciate the interaction with the audience. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
The pleasure was ours. Thank you very much. I'll see you in just a second. There you have it. Stop the blame game. Get your shit together. Look at your board. Sit down with them. Evaluate if they're the right people in your lives. Everybody needs the right board of the directors behind them in order to make their dreams, their company's dreams, their community's dreams come true. So be sure to do the right thing and watch us every week, because we're going to continue to have these great guests on for you. This great information that you can suck in through your face holes and keep right here in the board of your brain, the motherboard of your brain. Sometimes I just don't know what I'm saying. Sometimes I do. But that's why you guys mess with me. That's why you watch me, because I'm crazy and I just blurt things out. But you know who doesn't blurt things out? These professionals that I have on every week. Come back next Tuesday, and I'll be sure to have another one on for you. Break rooms always on Friday, but it's nothing without you. So remember, tune in, share, like, subscribe. Let the world know about the Talking Junk Network, because we don't bite hard. Stay tuned for next week. We love you guys. And remember, stop the blame game. You're only hurting yourself. Do what Hardy did. If you see your life speeding down a circle, get out, reevaluate it, and make sure you do some good. Peace out.